Welcome back to the show, everyone. Today we have a very special guest. He is the voice that Rowdies fans should know and loves. He's been with us through the wild winds, the heartbreak, and everything between. Yes, but 7 years has really been 7 years. It really has been 7 years. The one, the only Ryan Davis, longtime broadcaster, analyst, and storyteller of the Tampa Bay Rowdies soccer team. Today we're going to be diving into the club, kind of his favorite moments behind the mic, and of course, his thoughts on the 2025 season and the future of the green and gold. Ryan, it's great to have you with us, man. How you doing today?
Ben, it's a long time coming. I've been looking forward so much to having a conversation with you, recorded on air.
Yes.
So thank you for having me. It is a real pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's been an interesting season, but it's been an interesting 7 seasons. We've had a chance to kind of cross paths and chat here and there throughout the years, and this is something I've always kind of wanted to do since I stepped in with the unused substitute. So I'm really excited, man. This should be a lot of fun. I think it's going to be a good chance, I think, for people to get to know you a little better and also and kind of get your thoughts outside of the broadcast booth a little bit, which
Sure.
I think you are one of the people that I think is lucky enough to have a very unique perspective on the team and kind of how you saw this year go. So for starters, man, but we just finished the 2025 season. I don't know if I want to necessarily start there, but as you look at the season as a whole, obviously we'll dive into parts of it, but as you look back at this whole season, what are some moments that kind of stand out to you and from your perspective?
I look at the team. You have to look at the spine of the team, right? So you have Forrest Lasso and Aaron Guillen. And then they had Vincay Ezil, who's a defensive midfielder, and you ask him to play right centre-back. Fair, sure, go ahead. Sure. So you have two old generals, legends of the Rowdies. The key term is old in Lasso and Guillen. Then you go up to Lewis Hilton, one of my favorite people and favorite players of all time for Rowdies, the orchestrator. So these are all the personality of the Rowdies. This is all the spine of the Rowdies. Leo Fernandez,
Yep.
right? So you have Hilton, Fernandez, and then you have Arteaga, and this year Woobins. Leo Fernandez, again, injured. Again, one of my favorite people and players, but injured. So it's really a turn of the tide for the Rowdies. These players that are the spine of the team, you always build your spine and then you build on the outside after.
Yep.
The spine of the team has gotten old, and these guys have given everything to the club, put us on the map, as you will. And now the page is turning, but the page took a little too long to turn, if you
Yeah.
understand what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I think that was for me, the first 2 months of the season. It was very apparent to me. Arteaga, he's not a Rowdies legend, but he belongs in that conversation of
Yep.
players who have now passed that prime. I really thought Arteaga was running in mud for the first 2 months. I saw balls played in front of him. I mean, this is after a great season with Carl Jennings. Carl Jennings is best forward in USL Championship, right? So he had a blast playing with Carl Jennings last year. Balls played in front of Arteaga this season. It looked like he could never get there.
Yep.
And I just thought to myself, wow, this is going to be a long, long season. And that was so symbolic of the first 2 months, which then bled into the rest of the season.
Yeah, because like you look at the spine of the players you talked about. I mean, really, they were the icons of that 2019 to kind of 2021 run, right? I mean, those 3 years where we were just unbelievable. Those players carry us through all of that. And it was interesting when we didn't see a lot of change in the offseason. Now, I don't know what happened in the offseason. I don't know what may or may not have been said or done or whatever. To me, it doesn't do us any good to talk about the what ifs. All we know is this team that we had at the beginning of the season is who we had, and this is who we're going to build with. And I'm with you. I mean, unfortunately, Leo just couldn't quite get fully healthy this year. Lewis Hilton plagued with some injuries. Aaron Guillen, who I still think is a great voice and leader of the team, his claim to fame was Guillen Island. That pace, he was unstoppable. As many players do, as they age in the game, they lose some of that pace, and then it becomes more about, the lines they take, the angles they go, the way to break down hold down their side of the field, and he lost some of that. And then Arteaga, I agree completely. I love Manu. I've been a Manu fan for the last year and a half. He just looked like he was laboring. In 2 minutes of being on the field, he looked like he was laboring.
Yeah.
Although you look at the changes we made towards the end of season, obviously a guy like Paul Marie makes a big change, right? I mean, you bring in that quality of player to help support the offense, he's going to make an effective change. Manu looked the Manu of old with him up there. So you wonder Was it just not finding the right mix of players? Is it the people we're bringing in? Is it the new coach? I mean, there's so many factors in that, right? It's like, it was tough. I mean, Van Ziel, who I think was phenomenal in his place, you're right, playing out of position. And it felt like after the first 2 months, like nothing was working. Nothing, no matter changing lineups, whatever the messaging was, it was lost. Just something didn't feel right. And change was necessary. The team ultimately ended up doing that very early into the season.
Coaching was a problem, by the way. So
Yeah.
this year, Robbie, the Scottish coach, had to be replaced. I don't think he was always into it. He was never really part of the team when he came in. So you could feel that disconnect.
Yeah.
And that bled into the team, felt it on the field. So eventually he had to go. Interim coach stepped in, fantastic human being.
Yeah.
Just really couldn't, he just wasn't ready. He will be ready, but he just
Right.
wasn't ready to take over that locker room and redo the team. In comes Cassiato, and I think he's the right guy for the right job at the right time. The players are all staring up at the ceiling like, what do we do now? Well, in comes Cassiato, and he's like, you know what we're going to do? This is what we're going to do. So everybody actually listens. So the timing is everything as well, right? So the players are really they're humbled,
Yeah.
and they're ready to accept guidance. And Cassiato comes in and gives guidance. And I think the last 7 games of the season, they just lose 1 game, and that's fantastic. So you can see the turning around happening as we speak. So I think we just talked about the older players who are the spine of the team getting old. We talked about our Thiago. Then we talked about the coaching changes. These are all the ingredients that Rowdies fans want to know. What happened to 2025? Grab your pen and pen. Sorry, your pencil and paper. Here it goes. Here are the factors that are contributing to this season and why they are where they are.
Well, and to your point, I think a big reason why we bring in Steve Coleman is to build that bridge, right? Which obviously there was a disconnect with Robbie. So you bring in a guy like Steve Coleman who has existed in that role. He knows how to relate to players. I mean, any good assistant coach, their job is to be the liaison between head coach and players and really relate to them and back and forth, right? And I think Steve Coleman was fantastic for the job. Unfortunately, thrust into a head coaching position, which I agree, not what he was ready for. Not to say he won't get there.
Correct.
But I think one thing you saw under him, which is specific to why he was here, is he rebuilt the foundation of this club and with the players. You could see there was a lot of fractions within the lineup, and he brought everyone back to a state of togetherness, belief, fighting for each other, believing them and what they're all there for. And I think that was hugely instrumental and need to be built before Cassiato comes in, where now he has this team that has a new belief in themselves. They have a togetherness. All he had to do was give them a direction, right? And I don't say all that. I mean, that simplifies it to a very small thing. But Cassiato walks into a team that is together but directionless at this point, right? So he gets a chance to step and bring his knowledge, his experience, and obviously the inflection of some new players and some loanies and such to kind of help build on that. And really, after a few weeks, you could see, I mean, exactly what he was trying to implement. There was that attacking mindset, that high press, that exciting football that he talked about when he was hired, right? You could see those things happening from week in and week out. And really, as you look at the last, like you said, 7 games of the season, you really start to get a feel for the identity of what this team is going to look like. Now, obviously, will that change over the offseason a little bit? Sure. We're going to see some players leave. I think it's time. The loanies will go back home. Unfortunately, I think there's more players that we love that will probably be seeing their way out, but that is a part of change, right? That's pro sports in general.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Dominic Cassiato, what he brings his club, just as him as a coach with his experience?
I think he brings organization. So that starts on practice on Monday morning, and that then shows up on Saturday afternoon in Alang Stadium. So on Monday morning practice, everything is very organized. He sets a standard to get onto the field. You have to be running a certain amount of course, they wear the bands across them chest so they can calculate the amount of miles you're covering in the game. And in modern soccer, it's really just kind of up and down, a track meet almost sometimes.
Yeah.
So a lot of players were now held to a different standard. I mean, Neil Collins had a very high standard. And when he left, it was a bit of a lull. And now the players are held back to that standard again. And the players were ready to receive that standard. You remember, this is a veteran group. When you have a coaching change, you're like, Don't worry about it. Just give us the ball. We'll take care of it on Saturday afternoon. That doesn't last very long. You can see the steady decline of that mentality. So they were ready to receive a new message. Casciato comes in, deliver the message, discipline, organization, everybody playing for each other collectively, and the results slowly started to come to fruition.
Yeah. I mean, kind of looking ahead, I mean, what do you think the Rowdies need to do to take the next step towards another deep playoff run? I mean, obviously, there's lots of things, but if you could pick a few things that to you that would be important to get this team headed back in that direction next season, what are some things that you would like to see?
On the field, I would like them to get, well, you have to build from your base, right? And then we'll put the roof on after. The base, center backs. We don't have, the Rowdies have lived with 3 center backs since Neil Collins. Fantastic identity, great. Is that Coach Casciato's identity? We don't know. He didn't want to change things too much in the middle of the season, so he played the 3 center backs. We're going to find out what his actual formation is next season. It could be a 4-3-3. We don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you have to start, you have to build with 2 center backs, right? You have to get a holding midfielder. I love Cristosimo.
Yeah.
What he did, he's a coach's dream. So if he is allowed, or if they ask of him, I don't think he's a holding midfielder, but if he's asked to do that, great. He's allowed. He should be given the opportunity. Boy, has he earned it. Of course, Mendes is going to be in center midfield there with whomever, and then you have to go out. If you could get Woobins back, that's your guy. He is of that caliber to lead this team. If not, you have to go out and buy a striker, the roof of the house, that can lead this team and get goals like Woobins did this year. But you have to take care of the spine first. Hamid, questions still out there.
Yeah.
Goalkeeper is very, very big. Rowdies, all of Rowdies' success has come with good goalkeepers. Every year, I think it was McCarthy.
Yep.
Evan Lauro.
Yep.
I can't remember the third one.
Yeah, Matt Pickens before them.
But I'm just saying, after Lauro was another one. I can't. I'm sorry.
Should know his name as well, and it's escaped me at the moment.
Yeah. But they were very consistent in bringing in good goalkeepers.
Yeah.
Which, again, is part of that spine. And so the Rowdies have to take care of that first. Keeper, 2 centre-backs, holding midfielder, centre-forward, and then we can have another discussion.
Yeah, I worry with Woobins a little bit. I've kind of been famous this year for saying until Paul Marie came in, my biggest concern with him was taking plays off and his unwillingness to counter-press. He was very lazy in his counter-press. And it wasn't really until we saw a Paul Marie come in and really change that dynamic that I think we started to see who he really was as a player. Now, he was always great for that random play where he would get a ball, make a touch, and just rocket the ball in the back of the net, which love him for it. I mean, the guy has an amazing boot, right? But when you're asking the system to counter press and you're not doing it, one player taking a play off completely destroys the whole purpose of the counter press.
Especially a forward. He's leading the press.
Yeah. But if you notice, though, whenever he was doing it and he was giving all in, he was easily one of the better players, if not the best player on the field, consistently.
Yeah.
And I worry a little bit with him because it's going to come so much down to who we put in behind him or at least pair him with. But I digress.
I love Paul Marie, by the way. He can play attacking midfield, center midfield. He can go out right, so I really like him. He's versatile and he's creative, very creative.
Yeah, I know a little more about that story. So, I mean, obviously I can't share anything on that, but we're very fortunate to have pulled him in. I don't see how we get him back. I hope we do. Now, that's what, Nico and Dominic Casciato are tasked with this offseason, right? That is their job, is to go out and find those players, which, to their credit, even though the season didn't start off that way, they really did go out and find players that fit the system that helped at a ton. And I think it'd be hard-pressed, minus maybe one player who I'm not going to call out, but almost everyone they pulled in had an immediate effect and a starting role on this team. And I think that says something about not just them, but their willingness to be able to find good players and good talent in a tough market for players where everybody's looking for that diamond, right? So I'm excited for the offseason and what they're able to pull in. But I agree, the spine of this team is important. We have historically had superb goalkeeping. As far back to someone who's even shared the booth with you, Jeff Antonella.
Jeff Antonella, well done.
Wow. But I mean, you think back to, the goalkeepers we've had have always, like you said, bailed us out. Even to that prime Neil Collins team where, yes, we had Guillen and Scarlett and Forrest in the middle. They were always good to give up one boneheaded play, and the keeper was always there to bail us out.
Yeah,
And that's what you need your goalkeepers for, right? They don't need to
exactly.
be fantastic the entire game. We need them in that moment where the team makes a mistake, they can bail you out. And it didn't
Yes.
feel like we had that this year. And that's nothing against Campisi. I like Campisi, even though it just didn't work out that way. I thought Bondre was talented, even though I think he had deficiencies. And Bill Hamid, well, obviously a legend in the game for American soccer. He's played at the top level, the U.S. national team, and everything in between. Is an Asian goalkeeper, which I know in USL or just in soccer in general, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. But I still think it's something we need to take a look at. It's going to be a tall order for the team. To talk a little bit about you, I was going to say you've managed to capture the personality of this team. How do you balance being like analytical while still matching that emotion and passion of the fans?
It's very tough because the longer you spend in that booth following a team and being around an organization, you really start to become part. I mean, you really become part of it and you really want them to succeed. But at the same time, you have to be somewhat critical and call things out as you see it. And that can sometimes be hard for fans to hear. So yeah, it's not easy, but it's such fun, right? So and especially being a part of this organization has been incredible because they are sort of family like the Tampa Bay Rowdies, and they hold people in that respect like a family. So it's really hard sometimes to turn around and say whack a coach on the head or whack a player on the head, and this is just not acceptable, you know. But yeah, it's tough, but it's fun, tough, if you know what I mean.
Well, and you've also got a good partner up there in Drew Feliose, so you and him have developed a
Class.
wonderful partnership. I read an article that was actually on the Rowdies website from back in 2020, the
Yeah.
year after you were brought on, and talking about how your connection with Drew and kind of end up turning into this opportunity with the Rowdies, and how the two of
Yeah.
you really kind of evolved over the years. What would you say is been one of the biggest drivers for you in building that friendship with not just Drew, but and building that broadcast team to being, I mean, what I would say, and I think a lot of fans would agree, if you ever watch other USL shows, and not talking down about any other broadcast groups out there, and I'm obviously biased, but I believe we have one of the best duos in all of USL, hands
Thank you,
down.
Ben. Thank you. I think, well, let me just give a quick story how it all started. I
Okay.
wanted to get into the business. This was always a passion of mine that I had to follow. So it's 7.5, let's say 8 years ago, I spoke to René Ingoglia. He is the analyst for college football, right? So
Okay.
every Saturday you would see him on ESPN. So a friend of mine knew René from the gym. And she said, Ryan, let me introduce you to René. So we had a cup of coffee. We spoke for about 20 minutes. Sorry, about an hour. The guy is the most generous human being you'll ever come across. And he gives a nobody like myself time and effort and energy. And he says, Ryan, I don't know anybody in the soccer circles, but I know Drew Feliose. He is the commentator for the Tampa Bay Rowdies. How about I connect you guys? I called Drew Feliose out of the blue. Thank you to René. I spoke to Drew in the car driving around, and he was in the car driving around, and we spoke for a solid 45 minutes. And that's again because Drew, such a classy person, took the call. He listened to what I had to say. He gave free advice. He talked about the ins and the outs of the business. There were no opportunities at that time in the Rowdies booth.
Mhm.
And he just said, hey, if I ever hear anything, Ryan, I'll let you know. 6 months later, when the Rowdies wanted to go in a different direction, he calls me up. He says, Ryan, are you interested to coming to try out to be the Rowdies analyst? I'm like, of course. So I go down to the west side in Tampa. I do an audition with Drew in a basement with a screen and recording like this, and recalling the second half of the Rowdies when they got eliminated in 2018. So I called the half with him. They sent it up to Lee Cohen. He really liked it, and they brought me on. And I think Drew and myself really enjoy each other's company off air. So it's when we go on air, we do make it a point to make it lighthearted and enjoyable. But we're both very invested emotionally with the team, especially Drew, because he's born and raised in Tampa. So he's really two hooks in it, if you understand what I'm saying.
Absolutely. Well, as a Tampa native myself,
Yeah,
I grew up watching the Rowdies back in the 80s. I mean, there's, like I have a deep connection with Perry Vanderbeek and Steve
yeah,
Wegerle, Winston DeBose. Like these are my icons. So even now, as I have kind of built a friendship with guys like Perry Vanderbeek, who I can call if I ever have questions about just soccer in general, it's very special to me. So working for the team now is very unique. I
awesome.
love, like, it doesn't feel like work. I
Yeah,
genuinely love what I do. Like there are days when I do question what I'm
sure.
doing. But as a whole, I mean, it's like to get to work for your boyhood club it's a
Yeah,
pretty unique experience. But yeah, but to your point, like it's obvious you guys have a great connection. It
yeah,
comes from the broadcast and it feels effortless. So now you talked, I mean, so obviously I know through the article, like you have a big background in sports. Like you
yeah.
with your father being a big sports guy, you've been a big sports guy, not just specific to soccer, but cricket, playing all sports. Can you talk
Hey,
a little bit about, yes, please.
quick tidbit. I was the junior champion of table tennis in my island.
I read that. I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah. I mean, but that's a great point, right? It's like it's not like you were just a fan of one sport. You were a fan of sport in general. What was it for you? Is it the competition? Is it just the experience? Is it athleticism? Like, what was it for you that kind of drew you to sports?
You want real honesty here? Okay, here goes. My dad is a professional sports player.
Mhm.
He played professional cricket, which is
Yep.
like baseball up here. But he played soccer, he played table tennis, he played tennis,
Yeah.
he jumped on a bicycle and rode. So all of this stuff was then passed on to me. It was
Right.
an expectation as a little boy, as a toddler. And so I sort of grew up with that expectation of playing every single sport. And I have one of those brains that holds that really starts to hold on to stats, and it really enjoys sport. So
Mhm.
when I enjoy something, my brain expands. Sorry, not physically, metaphorically. And so I start to really recite stuff which annoys people when I was at a very young age. So the expectation for me as I moved forward, just be having such a love for sport in general, any sport. I can commentate any sport, but that's where it all started, from the expectation from a young kid and playing all the sports.
Yeah, so you said it actually, and I read this too, is you would actually commentate as you were, say, dribbling against the wall or playing against the
Yeah,
wall with yourself, or like you would.
yeah,
So this is something kind of you knew from the beginning, like something you have a passion for.
yes,
So obviously you came into this kind of later in your career, right? It wasn't something that you started right away. So to find yourself here now, what if you talk to your younger self, what would you say to your younger self and what it takes to get to doing what you're doing today? Like what would you say to yourself?
Ben, I have to be honest. I did think about that, and I would love to give everyone and give myself a Disney answer and say, well, yeah, this is the path I should have taken. Looking at what the cards that I had in my hand, being an immigrant from my island, I got an opportunity, thank you so much to my parents, to come away to college. Understand, coming from a third world country, you get that opportunity. You take that opportunity. So I did marketing for 4 years. And yes, I always had that inner burning inside of me, but there were no outlets. But understand, this was the early 90s, sorry, mid
Yep.
90s to the end of the 90s. So streaming was never a thing. So
Right.
you'd have to go and work for a radio station or a television station. So when I was in college, I was only allowed to work 20. So I couldn't really, and I needed that money,
Mhm.
right? I couldn't volunteer. So there was no room, you understand,
Yeah.
to follow that inner drive. There was definitely room to take care of the necessities at that
Yep.
time. So that's why I wish I could say, boy, you should have been gone broadcasting. I just didn't have that opportunity, but it would have been great. But now, as I got older and I have two incredible daughters,
Yep.
and my second daughter was born at 35. I tell you what, it started to really burn at about 39, 40, when I lay down in my bed and I stared at the ceiling and I said, man, you can't deny this anymore. This urge, this feeling of pursuing this, it wouldn't go away, and I had to ignore everything, all the doubts, and just start telling everyone. When you tell the universe, it's amazing how people's brains start to figure out possibilities. If I tell Ben Wilcox, Ben, I would really love to meet somebody in your radio station in Tampa. Ben Wilcox could ignore me, but his brain will then slowly, in subconscious, would
Yep.
start to find pathways to that answer. And Ben Wilcox will figure out, I know somebody Ryan can speak with.
Yeah.
I'm not saying this to take advantage of that. It's just how we work as human beings. We're so connected.
Yep.
So anyway, that's how I got a chance to get into these sports, because other human beings are just awesome.
Yeah, and that's a beautiful thing too, right? It's like maybe it didn't happen the way the storybook way, right? But you
Yeah.
did find your way here eventually. And in the process, you got this beautiful family that you made
Yes.
and all these other experiences which are equally as important as not great to you, and then to now be able to kind of work in what is a passion on
Yeah.
top of everything else you've built to this point. It's truly an amazing, it's a great to come through, parents who are immigrants, to make your way through college, to find your way, right? Like that's the American dream.
Yeah.
And
It really
to
is.
really to get to where you are today. And again, I mean, not to blow your head up too much here, but like to really have taken on a role with the Rowdies and become such an iconic voice for the team and for the broadcast. It's really been fun to watch. I remember the first time I heard your voice, I think it was Suncoast Invitational.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing
That
the
was
voice.
my
I'm like,
audition,
who
by the
is
way. That
was it
was my
really?
audition. Yeah.
I remember hearing the voice, thinking to myself, who the heck is this guy? And it just, I was instant, but you have a way about talking about the game that really it draws you. You do a great job of storytelling within the game, which I mean, as somebody who works in a very small way as a podcaster, whatever, it's a hard thing to do. It's a hard thing to capture, right? Is there anything that you do when trying to, especially in the games that are just like the slogs, the 0-0 draws, those
Man.
kind of games, which are, as we've been through, are tough, or the tough losses? What are some of the things that you like to try and do to kind of help bring something else from your point of view to help kind of give the fans something to hold on to?
Just like you said, storytelling. So if like last night I was doing a game, I called it NCAA game, and it was dull. It was 0-0. Both teams just sort of canceling each other out in midfield, and two players sort of teamed up and dispossessed another player and completely took him out. And I turned to my commentator and said, "You know what? Remember WWE when the second wrestler would come in and they would tag the one guy in the ring?" I'm like, that's exactly what just happened. So it brought a chuckle out to him as well, which is because he obviously lived through the WWE days. So it really is. I don't know. I just have this brain that would go off into like a million different things. So it is something that's really beneficial to me, that my brain works that way. But it can be a hindrance in other walks of life.
Sure.
But it really is fun to allow it to just do its thing.
Yeah, and I think the team, it feels like from an outsider, like the team is giving you room to do that, right? To
Yeah.
kind of express yourself in a way that really, one, promotes the team, but allows your strengths to really kind of play out on air. So it's just from a personal, it's been fun to kind of watch you develop over the years.
I have to say, though, I felt really good about two things here. The USL Championship actually on their, I think on their website, I think it was 2 years ago, with Fox in the Box.
Yes. Well, you got Fox in the Box. You've got the Samba Men.
Juan Tejada.
Yeah, Juan
So
Tejada.
Juan Tejada moved from the Rowdies, I think, to Indy 11. And they
Mhm.
actually put the Fox in the Box, went to Indy 11. And then this Forest Lasso last write-up, they actually put Lumberjack in the back,
Yep.
in the back, which was fun.
Well, I mean, like those are great names. I mean, and I
I mean,
wish there
Forest
was
Lasso looks like a lumberjack, doesn't he?
he does look like a lumberjack, especially when he really like he had the beard growing out and the hair.
Yeah.
Like he really had it going for a while there.
Yeah.
Actually, that kind of leads me to a good question. Who's the Rowdies player, past or present, that you think was criminally underrated?
I was trying to look up his.
Let's see if we even
know,
remember.
It's 2019, my first year.
Okay.
He is an African-born player. We gave him a really hard time for lack of effort. He looked like Jan Ekra, but he was a younger player. Can you get that name? I'm going to look up the name. 2019 Rowdies roster, center midfield. Neil Collins just comes in, and he is a very Jan Ekra-like looking player. That style of play as well.
It wasn't was it Domaduro? No. Oh my goodness. I know exactly who you're talking about.
Yes. Criminally underrated.
I'm going to have to look up the roster as well. I know this is riveting stuff for podcasting here. That's right. That's what the joy of the edit button is for.
Yeah. And you know what? Here it comes. I got you. All right. Drum roll. 2019. You know what? You were right. Aduro. Oh, not Dominic. Sorry. Is it Aduro? Not Aduro. Aduro was the hard-hitting defensive midfielder. This guy played through the middle, and Poku.
I loved him.
Poku.
You know, he was an older guy, man. He had time with Miami. He had time with a lot of teams, actually. Poku was such a wonderful guy, though, as far as like from a staff perspective. It wasn't always the case that the players treated us a certain way. I mean, we're obviously our own separate, and obviously they didn't owe it to us to treat us in a specific way. But he was definitely one of those guys who would always go out of his way to say hello, how you doing, and
Oh, that's
actually
great.
like genuinely cared for any faults he might have had on the field or in interactions with anyone. I can only say to him personally that he was always wonderful for me. I'm still friends with him on social
Oh,
media.
that's great.
I have talked to him occasionally. He's just a wonderful human being. I'm not sure that all would agree, but like I said, I have nothing but positive things to say about. Yes, Poku. What a great name to bring up.
Yeah, he was very elegant in midfield. He would really try to create flow for us at a time when Neil Collins was trying to build his defense. He was trying to build his pressing. Poku really would stem the tide for the Rowdies in midfield, and I think nobody appreciated that at that time.
Yeah.
I don't even think Neil Collins appreciated it at that time. But he's one of those players that was really good.
Yeah, agreed. He was very good. Go ahead.
One of the obvious ones that needs to be told: Jordan Doherty,
Oh,
legend, Rowdies legend, Jordan Doherty.
look at how this team, I say team, defensively, he was so good at either being that stopgap for the defense or stepping into the defensive role. He could do either flawlessly. And the second we don't have him, we struggled. I love Jordan, just such his talent from when he was just a kid. I mean, he was still a kid, but from when he first signed on with the club to when he left, I mean, he developed so much in such a short period of time. And I think that's also a credit to Neil Collins, I think, really taking him under his wing.
Yeah,
I think he may have seen somebody following his path a bit and really kind of helped guide Jordan's career. Such a pleasure to watch, too.
yeah.
Wow. Great suggestion on both
He
of
comes in
those.
at 2019, but
Mm.
he's only 18. So he goes away when he spent 2 years really learning his trade,
Yep.
bugging up all the different spots that Coach Collins needed. Guy was selfless, right?
Mhm.
Do his best. Sometimes he'll be embarrassed because he's out of position, playing out of position, but he gave his all, but he kept learning and learning. He went away back to Scotland, I think. He's from Ireland, went to Scotland, came back and really started to show his class. And then again, I think he went back to Europe again to play. So we're actually not seeing Jordan Doherty now in his prime, 24, 25.
Yeah, and that's crazy to think because man, that last year that we had him, that year that he went back to Europe to play, he grew as a player
Yeah,
in such a huge way because he came back. I mean, a young man. I mean, he came back. I
yes,
mean, just not that kid anymore.
yeah.
And it was really fun to see what he offered the team. So great shout outs on all those. Those are fantastic call outs.
Doherty and Poku. There you go.
Man, Poku, that is a name that I never thought would ever come up on a podcast again.
Love it.
Those are like, yeah. Okay.
But before I go, Caleb Richards came from Norwich. He was the left
Oh,
centre back for the Rowdies. He's playing in the lesser divisions in England. But
yep.
that Norwich experience that he came across here and gave to the Rowdies, absolute incredible player, Caleb Richards.
Yeah, I wonder whatever happened with that Norwich connection. It seemed like such a great opportunity. I don't know. I mean, it felt very one-sided, but what could have been? I don't know what happened there. If there was some kind of a fracture or whatever.
And boy, do we need that.
Yeah,
Boy,
I
do we
mean,
need that connection.
and the nice thing is, and I always felt like it was beneficial for them because we could take in their young players that didn't necessarily fit in a role
Yeah.
there, even in their lower ranks, that could come in here and get real first time minutes and I think really grow. It's unfortunate that kind of all fell by the wayside. That's something I'll have to bug Ryan and Jeff about. I'm curious
Yeah.
now.
Yes.
You've called so many Rowdies matches. I mean, I don't know if you've ever kept count, but you've called a lot. Well, I mean, how would you keep your commentary like fresh and authentic every single game? Do you always approach the game with like the same mindset? Do you treat each game kind of at its own individual thing?
Yeah, I mean, the prep before every game is looking at the other team's strengths and weaknesses, and then looking at what Rowdies are doing at that time. Remember, it's a 38 game season, so there are ebbs and flows. So you look at what the other team, where they are, you look at the Rowdies, where they are, and you try to find differentiators between the two teams. And also, you still want to entertain, right? So you still want to talk about people who are doing well. If there's another player doing well on their team, that needs to be spoken about. That needs to be talked about. If there's a Rowdies players that are doing well, that needs to be brought up and brought to the attention of the guests, or sorry, not the guests, of the fans, and also players who are not performing. So there's the differentiators between the two teams, and then stories from individual players on either side.
So, when you look at this season, is there a player to you that you think either developed the most? I mean, you kind of talked about a little bit with Chrysostamo, but
Mm.
who really surprised you the most this year? Like they really kind of stepped up or changed their game. Is there any one player or a couple players maybe that stand out to you this year? It's really kind of
I mean,
elevated.
7 games of Mendes at the end was fantastic. I mean, when you look at a player, you always try to see if the game comes easy to them for an extended period of time. Not for 10 minutes, not for 20 minutes, for an extended period of time. Is the game looking easy? And Mendes just always seemed to have an extra touch or know he knew where the outlet was when the ball came to him in traffic. And when you start seeing that over and over again, you're like, okay, yeah, this is a little bit different.
Yeah, and to me, like, and your thoughts on this, like, he never looked like even the moments where he was getting a lot of pressure, he never looked rushed. Like he
Yeah,
looked comfortable. And to your point, like he was always aware of where the open player was and his
yeah,
ability to kind of distribute the ball effortlessly, which
yes,
is so big in that central position because the pressure can come from any side. And I always
yeah,
found that as a player, when I transitioned to a defensive center mid position, it was way more difficult to predict where it was going to come from. So when you see a player like him, who obviously has played at the heights of not just Mexico over Juarez, I mean, it's obvious that he has played at the top level of other clubs. And to see him bring that in, and Casio will talk about, he will bring in strength to strength to strength. And he did. It seemed like every game he got stronger, he got better, he got more comfortable with the players around him. It was fun to kind of watch him develop
yeah.
these last few games because he definitely added another layer that I thought was lacking, whether it be injury, whatever. It was definitely lacking this year.
Yeah, he was the obvious one. I'm going to give a small shout out for effort to Asukar on the right hand side. He really, remember, he's a right winger. He's
Yep.
an attacking player. So to be asked to play right wing back to come and do all that defensive responsibility, have to give him huge shout out. He grew into that position as the season went on. And when he came in, because he came in halfway through.
Yeah, and I mean, he's put time a little bit with Moon, who actually managed to be a little more healthy this year than years past,
Boy,
which
he's so good. I mean, Nick
yeah.
Moon really is good. Look what he did to get the goal to Woobins. I mean, he
Yep.
took on two players, split them. I mean,
Yep.
that you can't teach that. And the
No.
fact that Nick Moon just can't stay healthy is so frustrating. And that's a concern to me too. I mean, we have players, Leo Fernandez, after that Achilles heel
Both.
injury, could never get back healthy. Lewis Hilton, that hip injury, could never get back healthy. It's a concern for me. Bodily, in and out, Moon, more out than in. And I'm just like, why are these players suffering such injuries for such prolonged periods of time? And why is it happening so often?
Yeah. Well, and let's not forget Wazzy
Question.
too. Wazzy going
Sorry?
down essentially. Wazzy blew
Yeah.
essentially everything in that region, the way it was explained to me, everything in that area gone. And we didn't see him again this year. And that's a guy who I really feel like what could have been,
Yeah.
because when he was healthy at the beginning of the season, he was electric.
Loved it. I love
He was just because we had him and Bodley on either side, which
Yeah.
Bodley, I think, stayed pretty healthy this season. I don't remember a lot of times him being injured. Obviously, towards the end of the year, I know it was a little bit different, but man, he was fun to watch.
Yeah.
But you have that,
Direct.
and you have
Very
Wazzy,
direct.
yeah,
Yeah.
who could get up those lines with pace and feed a good ball in or cut inside when needed.
I
But
think we're up to 5 players now. What about Ollie Bassett? Ollie Bassett was a fantastic find from the Canadian Premier League. He has that mentality that the Rowdies are looking for. Again, not just an injury, a serious injury.
yeah.
Why?
And do you think part of
Questions.
it's just the pressure that, or the just has the athleticism of the current USL player just gotten that much better?
It has. That's one factor.
Is it the amount of games with all these extra tournaments that we have? I mean, some we haven't talked about yet is the Jägermeister Cup.
Yep.
I mean, you've got all these other tournaments and all these other things happen. Do you think that plays a part into it in some way?
I think it does. And I think the clubs have to advance or go along with the improvement of the league, how
Yeah.
much quicker it's getting. The clubs also have to be prepared in practice and in preparation for
You
the
got to have
amount
good
of
depth.
good depth as well. So you have rotation. You can't have this huge drop off and then you keep asking this same group of players to keep coming back into the lineup and play extended minutes or else you're going to get what happened this season.
Yeah, that's going to be something big that I really hope we address this year. And I mean, that's tough, right? How do you sign a player and tell them, oh, we're not going to play you? I mean, obviously you don't sign any guy with that intent, but there's a high probability you're going to be sitting on the bench behind somebody better than you. And how
I
do you
think
keep them motivated?
I think there's enough games now that you don't have to have that conversation. And if that conversation is happening, I think you don't say that before they're signed, but I
Sure.
think you give them an opportunity saying every Monday morning, you have an opportunity to get that starting spot because it is up for grabs every Monday
Yeah.
morning. That spot's up for
Yeah.
grabs.
And you talked about it too with Casciano. That was one of the things that he's tasked with, right? Is, I mean, hey, you want to start on Saturday? You're going to have to show me by Monday, what you're made of and what you're coming with every single week.
Neil Collins, how you practice from Monday to Friday
Yeah.
decides if you're starting on Saturday. It was no secret to anyone, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, and it showed, right? I mean, you look at, look at what he's doing now with Sacramento. I mean, it's no surprise to any of us that know him that he is having that same success out there.
Yeah.
And the team
Yeah.
is playing the way they're playing. They are fantastic to watch. I don't know if you've had the opportunity to watch some of or any of their games this year,
So some,
but
yeah.
it's very familiar
Yeah.
as far as that attitude, right? They very
High
much embody their
intensity.
coach. And the team loves him the same way
Yeah.
that we did for all the same reasons, right? But yeah, I hope and I do believe. I mean, Dominic obviously at USL League One created that same environment. It's why he was
Yeah.
successful at the time that he was there. I very much believe he'll be able to instill that here with us. I brought up the Jägermeister Cup. That's something you and I talked about
Yeah,
beforehand.
love it.
Give me your thoughts on it because I absolutely love the Jägermeister Cup. What were your
Love it.
thoughts this year on it?
I love the fact that games need to be played on a Wednesday, and the Jägermeister Cup is slowly getting to that spot where Saturdays are league, cup games on Wednesdays, and some Saturdays there will be cup games. But I love that USL is coming up with its own identity. If MLS wants to get locked in with their owners, where they can't budge, and their league is paying the price, that's on you. USL is like, all our owners here, yes, they're invested, but they're more invested in the league taking its own identity and going in its own direction. So the USL now has the flexibility to be like, this is what we're doing. We're going to follow the blueprint of world soccer. And I think the fans here, the viewership on TV, fans are watching world soccer. So USL is like, you know what? That's what the fans want. That's what the fans going to get.
Yeah, and something I came out of the tournament with, it's also a great opportunity as a young player in some of these League One teams to showcase their skills to bigger
Yeah.
teams, right?
Yes.
It's a platform. It's a
Yes.
great competition because these guys are going to come up to the championship level and prove their point. I mean, and I found myself watching some of these younger teams play. You realize that there's a lot more talent there than what we actually knew. And it's a good place, not just for other teams, for fans, to
Yeah.
fellow players to kind of showcase their skills against teams that are all invested, because that was one of my biggest complaints with the Open Cup. And we talked about this prior to starting this was MLS teams didn't care the first couple rounds, and maybe some did, but most of them were pretty openly talking about how they didn't care about the tournament. To them,
Yeah.
it was send
Yeah.
our reserves, send whoever else. If we've got a USL or lower or MLS2 affiliate, send those players. I'm not sending my guys, which
Yeah.
I understand that perspective, but it's disrespectful to all these other clubs that are fully invested that want to play at that level. And
Yeah.
USL's found a way to not only make a really solid competition, but to make it means something to everybody who's
Yeah.
in it,
Yes.
you know?
We saw Naples and Tormenta
Yeah.
up close and personal, and they were fun. They're quality teams,
Yeah.
you know,
I mean,
relative to the level we're talking about. They're quality. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, look, what was it? Naples that beat Charleston Battery? I mean, that's pretty impressive if you ask me, because Charleston, most people who know me know I'm not a Charleston fan at all, but you cannot discredit the fact that
Nope.
they have a fantastic club right now and they are very good and fun to watch. So for a
Yeah.
USL League One team to go there and beat them was quite exciting, but that's the magic of the cup, right? That's what it's
Yes.
supposed to bring.
Yes.
Is to bring that opportunity. The same thing we love about Champions League,
Or like FA
UEFA.
Cup. When you see these
Yes.
clubs named after a street and
Yeah.
they get to play against Manchester United, they host Manchester United.
Yeah.
Their 8,000 seat ground. People are on the rafters, sitting on the roofs. That's so much money coming in to their club. That's very important for the actual. We talk about layers, right? You have to have layers in a company. You have to have layers in a league. You have to have layers in a organization. So it's so important for these layers, lower layers, to be fed and to be looked after.
Yeah, and kind of bridging that idea kind of into the Rowdies. Something I kind of felt that was been lost the last year and a half was that fan engagement, that mentality, right? Like I felt like the stands at times this year were very light. Now there's lots of things that go into that, I understand, but even the mob section, even those areas were not
Agreed.
what we are used to, right? And I look, famously, I called out the mob, Skyway Casuals. I called out the fans a couple times because I'm like, I get that it's tough to get excited about a team that just doesn't seem like they have a direction, is not playing
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
But as fans, I think we also have an obligation to stand up and support the team when they're not doing well, especially after everything that we've been given the last 7 years, right? And it doesn't mean we can't still go out and voice our displeasures with the team or players or staff or whatever, but that is our right as fans. But we also, I said a couple episodes ago, there is not a single player that stepped on that field that when they signed with this club, looked at the crest and said, I don't care about that. I care
Yeah.
about me, and I'm not going to
Yeah.
play. I'm not going to give everything I have. Everyone that went out there wants to win. Everyone out there wants to win for the fans, for the club. I mean, everybody does.
Yeah.
So just because it's not working doesn't mean that these guys still don't care or they're not giving everything. It's just not working. And it's up to all of us to kind of work towards finding what it takes to get to that next level, to get us to where we want to be.
Speaking about being a fan of a club, I'm glad you just brought it up. I'm just going to tilt my camera here real quick. So you talk about Naples. So when I was about 13 years old, before that, 12 years old. So this is Napoli. This is Napoli from Italy. I went to Naples. It's not Naples. I went to Napoli in the summer, and I took the walk through Mecca, as we call it, to the Diego Maradona Memorial. So when I grew up, I had Liverpool on a Saturday and Italian football on a Sunday. That's how it worked. Diego Maradona, when I saw him play when I was 9 or 10, he immediately became my favorite player. I mean, he was Messi on steroids, right? So, and then imagine, this is the separation here, Ben. This is why Diego Maradona is held in that conversation as the greatest ever. He leaves Barcelona, prestigious Barcelona. He never really fit in. He was a man of the people. He was born under the bridge, as they say, in Buenos Aires, right? He was not the guy from the neighborhood. He was the guy from the streets. Never fit into Barca. Napoli never won a Serie A. They go to the Bank of Napoli and they say, we will give you 3 years of our ticket sales. We will sell out Napoli Stadium and give you every dime. You loan us some money and we will convince Diego Maradona, the best player on the planet by a country mile, to come to our team that's never won. That's never won. And they're a mid-table team. They get the money. They convince Maradona. He comes to Napoli. Within 2 years, they win the Serie A. So this sponsorship here is an Italian sponsorship. This is when Maradona first came. When he came and they won, they now had enough money. And now Mars Candy, they then sponsor. It's a famous Napoli shirt, Mars on it, with Maradona.
Okay. Yep.
They then came from the outside and gave money to Napoli. And that's when the club moved. But that's why he's not the guy to go to the best team. He's the guy to go to the middle of the road team and drag that team past the giants. That's why. Anyway, so you said Napoli, and you talked about fan, huge fan. So, by the way, here you go. I'm just repping Napoli everywhere. So I made the walk through Mecca. I saw the Maradona Memorial. It was fantastic. Goosebumps. Amazing. So I'm a lifelong fan of Napoli and Liverpool. And it was such an experience. And for fans, you have to go through the dark times. Napoli were relegated to Serie B. They came back up. I was always a fan. You got to be there from the good times and the bad times. I know it's rough. It's going to kill you. But when they get back up there, there's no other feeling.
That's what being a fan is all about, though, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's like you go through that emotions with them. And I, too, am a Liverpool fan, although I cannot claim that I have been a fan for the longest time. I have not. I was
That's
always
right.
an American who's like, hey, I'm gonna love the Americanness of what we have.
Sure.
Playoffs, give it all to me. I don't care.
Yeah.
I always bought into American soccer because I'm like, this is ours, right? Like I have no
Yes.
connection overseas.
Yes.
And I always felt it was kind of funny for like my friends, like, oh, this is my team. Well, why? I don't know, because I like the shirt one day. I'm like, all right, well,
You have to fall in love somehow, though.
right. And oddly enough, for me is I fell in love with Liverpool because of Jurgen Klopp, right? I remember watching him with Dortmund and just thinking, I mean, when the supporters had the picture of him that comes up with the smiling face, you're just like, who is this guy?
Yeah,
And
man.
why do fans love him? And then,
He's
like, you get to learn about him and what he's all about. Like, it's like,
yes.
how could you not? And then he makes a transition to Liverpool, and I'm like, well, now I've got a reason to follow a European team, an English team,
Yeah.
right? And boy, what a ride that was. I mean, because it wasn't perfect right from the beginning, right? Those first couple of years were lean.
Tough. Some of the lineups
And
that he had was tough, but they were still competitive. They still got to
yeah,
I think they got to the European Cup final his
yeah.
first year. They lost to Sevilla in the final, I think it was. And then they started to bring pieces in. And boy, did he turn this thing around.
Yeah, I mean, it was fun to kind of watch that team develop. Obviously, we're having a down year, but whatever. This is part of being a fan, right? You deal with the low times. You know, you got to love them at their greatest and love them at their lowest because this is part of being a fan. I mean, I remember Rowdies seasons. Some of our newer fans don't remember the lean years before Stuart Campbell even. It hasn't always been great here, right? But I mean, it's not always just about what happens on the field. It's the friendships we make. It's the people
Oh, yeah.
and the
It's
relationships we
bigger.
build
It's
on the
bigger than
way.
that. Yeah.
I mean, I can remember going to the old bar across the road after some games and just talking with people
Yeah.
and just even though it was a loss, like it starts about that. Next, we're talking about anything but soccer and just
Yeah.
life. And it's just like some of the greatest friends I have today are all through this club, right? And it's one of the magics of sports. And I know people get that in all kinds of ways. Some people get it through theater, some people get it through music. However, you build that thing, sports to me is its own unique thing. And it's something that has helped kind of shape my whole life. And it's brought me so much joy. It's brought me an identity from a player to somebody who works with a club to now doing a podcast. It's something special. And I'm so fortunate for the time that I've had here at the Rowdies. I'm assuming that you will be back for next season, correct?
Good assumption. Yeah.
Okay, good. I mean, I hope so. We're not having any other departures from the booth. We've all grown very fond of you and Drew. I think you guys do an
Thank you.
absolute bang up job up there. And again, like we've talked about, I mean, it just the chemistry, the excitement, the way that you've kind of just captured some of the highs to highs and lowest of lows and really kind of walked us through those emotions throughout these seasons has been absolutely special. And I'm really thank you for all that you've brought to the club. Before we
Thank you.
kind of close these out here, is there anything that you'd like to discuss or talk about? Is there anything that maybe people don't know about you that you'd love to let people know?
Well, I'm very defined when it comes to I'm a sports guy.
Yeah.
So yes, sports. My life does kind of center around my family, my wife, my two daughters, and sports. And I do work. I work and I'm a business consultant and I help small businesses. I try to provide resources for them to grow. So I do work 9 to 5 job and I do broadcasting in the nights and on the weekends. And it is growing to a point where it's growing a lot. So I'm actually doing my country, Trinidad and Tobago, against Jamaica play-by-play for
Awesome.
CONCACAF. That's going to be in just over 2 weeks, just under 2 weeks. And that's going to be an electric game in Port of Spain. It's going to be fantastic. So I do a lot of things outside the Rowdies, but the Rowdies, there's no other place I can tell you when I walk through the doors of the Rowdies. It is a club. All right, a club is very important to decipher this because in this country, it's franchises. The club has the onus to represent the people of that area. And the Tampa Bay Rowdies are lucky to represent the Tampa Bay area. And they owe it to the Tampa Bay area people to represent the Tampa Bay area. That's the difference between a club and a franchise. So the club is part of the people. And that's why when you hear Liverpool Football Club, Manchester United Football Club, FC, right? It really does belong to the people. It's not a joke.
I love that. I don't think I would have ever connected those two dots in that way. And so that's a really great way of looking at it. And also, good shout out to ownership. We were lucky under Stu Sternberg to have done and invest in this team the way that he did after Bill Edwards. I'm excited to see what these new owners will do and helping to keep guiding us down that path. Yeah. I will, after this is all done, if you have any way that people would like to reach out to you, if you have any socials or any way that they can talk to you, if they have questions for you, do you want, I could post them in the description after this is done, or if you want to call them out, you're welcome to.
Actually, we could post them in the description after. I'll give it to you. I would love to hear from people, love to chat. I love talking about sports, love talking soccer. It could be general, it could be from the tip of Europe all the way to the bottom of South America and everything in between. Happy to talk about it. That's what I love to do. So, and Ben, I have to say a huge shout out to you. You've carried the flag for the Rowdies when the flag is hard to fly, and you've done it with grace. And thank you for doing this for the fans. I know the fans talk about the unused subs. Ever since I came in to be part of the Rowdies family, it's very much the signature talk show, the signature way of getting Rowdies news. So please continue flying the flag and flying it with grace. Thank you.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you very much. Well, guys, that is going to wrap things up here with our chat with Brian Davis, a guy who has helped paint the picture of Rowdy soccer for years. His passion, insight, energy have made the highs higher, even the heartbreak a little more poetic. Brian, thanks for everything you've done for this club and the fans and everyone listening. Keep the Rowdy spirit alive. Keep that green and gold flying. And we will see you all the next match day. Thanks again, Ryan. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Ben.